January. The Barents Sea. A crew of 40 men boards a helicopter wearing bright orange survival suits designed to keep them alive in freezing water for 2 to 6 hours. The flight takes nearly 2 hours. No one speaks. The rotor noise makes conversation impossible. They sit in silence, some asleep, most staring at nothing, mentally preparing for what comes next. Their hitch on Goliat, Norway's Arctic oil platform, where the sun will not rise once during their entire rotation. The temperature outside is negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind chill pushes it to negative 60. At these temperatures, exposed skin freezes in under a minute. For 2 months each winter, the platform operates in total darkness, what the crews call the dark time. The rig creates a stadium effect, a bubble of industrial floodlights surrounded by infinite black ocean and drifting ice. Inside that bubble, life follows routines so precise that violating them can get you fired, injured, or killed. This is what it takes to extract oil from one of the most hostile environments on Earth. The routines that keep these crews alive aren't habits. They're engineered survival sequences where every mundane action, walking downstairs, eating lunch, going to the bathroom, has been redesigned to prevent specific failure modes. A single rotation from arrival to departure shows how workers structure their days around systems that protect both their bodies and their sanity. You'll see why a closed curtain means someone doesn't exist, why cotton clothing is forbidden, and why the most important object on a worker's body isn't their hard hat. It's a small yellow device that sniffs the air every second of every shift.
Golden Eagle is a production platform located 70 kilometers.
The helicopter descends toward the helideck. A crew in silver fireproof proximity suits stands ready with extinguishers. The deck is heated to prevent ice buildup, but the wind still hits like a physical blow when the door opens. Workers exit in single file, following a strictly designated path marked with painted lines. They do not deviate. They do not stop to look around. The walk to the intake room takes 30 seconds. That's enough time for the wind to steal body heat through any gap in clothing. The entry door is heavy steel, designed to seal airtight. When it closes behind them, the transition is immediate. The sound of wind and rotors disappears. The smell changes from salt and cold air to something else entirely: recycled ventilation, industrial grease, and whatever the galley is cooking. This is the scent of the next several weeks. In the hallway, the arriving crew passes the departing crew. The interaction is brief. A nod, sometimes a quiet "good luck." One group looks exhausted but euphoric. The other looks fresh but already resigned. They are crossing in opposite directions through the same threshold, one returning to the civilian world, the other leaving it behind. The boot room is the single most important transition point on the rig. Every worker must remove their outdoor footwear before entering the living area. This rule is absolute. No exceptions are made for anyone, regardless of rank. Inside the accommodation module, workers wear clean indoor shoes, sandals, or disposable blue plastic booties pulled over their socks. The rule exists because outdoor boots carry toxic drilling mud, industrial grease, and chemicals that can contaminate the spaces where people sleep and eat. The separation prevents hazardous materials from reaching living quarters. The rig divides all space into 2 categories: indoor and outdoor. The boundary between them is marked by airlocks with colored light systems. Green means the air is safe and the door can be opened. Red means hydrogen sulfide or combustible gas has been detected. When the light turns red, you do not open the door. You wait, or you find another route. Hydrogen sulfide is a naturally occurring gas in oil extraction. It smells like rotten eggs at low concentrations, but at higher concentrations, it paralyzes the olfactory nerve, meaning you stop smelling it right before it kills you. The gas can incapacitate a worker in seconds and cause death within minutes at concentrations above 1,000 parts per million. The light system removes human judgment from the equation. The environment itself decides who can go outside. New workers are identified immediately. They wear a green hard hat or a green sticker on their standard helmet. This marking is mandatory and visible from a distance. The green designation signals to everyone on the platform, "I don't know what I'm doing. Watch out for me." Experienced workers give green hats extra space on narrow walkways. They double-check that green hats are following procedures correctly. They intervene before mistakes happen. The system works because it removes ego from the safety equation. A new worker doesn't have to admit they're lost or confused. The green hat broadcasts their inexperience automatically, and the crew responds accordingly. After several hitches and demonstrated competence, the green marker is removed. Until then, it stays. The boot room and airlock represent more than contamination control. They mark where civilian identity ends. On one side of that threshold, you're a person with a name, a family, preferences, and autonomy. On the other side, you're a component in a system where protocols override individual choice. The door closes, the smell changes, the routine begins. Going outside to work is not a matter of grabbing a jacket. It's a 20-minute procedure that must be completed in the correct order. The base layer is moisture-wicking thermal underwear, usually merino wool or synthetic fiber. Cotton is strictly forbidden because it absorbs sweat and holds moisture against the skin. In extreme cold, that moisture freezes and pulls warmth away from the body faster than it can generate it. The phrase used in training is "cotton kills." The mid-layer is fleece or thick wool. Its job is to trap warm air close to the body. The outer layer is the real armor, flame-resistant coveralls, heavily insulated with reflective strips and the company logo. The coveralls must meet FRC standards, flame-resistant clothing, because oil rigs have ignition sources everywhere. Over the coveralls, impact gloves with rubberized pads on the knuckles to prevent crushed fingers, a hard hat with a winter liner, a balaclava covering everything except the eyes, goggles to prevent snow blindness and to stop wind from freezing the fluid on the eyeballs. The total weight of this personal protective equipment is 20 to 30 pounds. Simple movements, bending over, climbing a ladder, turning your head, become exhausting. Workers get used to it, but they never stop feeling it. The final piece is the most critical. Every worker clips a small yellow or orange device to their chest. The gas monitor. This device continuously samples the air for hydrogen sulfide, combustible gas, and oxygen levels. If the monitor beeps, you stop breathing through your nose and mouth, and you run upwind. It doesn't matter what you are doing. It doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a task. The monitor overrides every other priority. Before starting each shift, workers perform a ritual called bumping. They expose the gas monitor to a canister of test gas to verify that the alarm actually works. This takes about 30 seconds and happens every single day because you cannot trust a safety tool without continuous verification. The standard shift is 12 hours. Add an hour for handover and preparation, and that leaves 11 hours for everything else: sleeping, eating, showering, calling home, and any personal maintenance. Shifts start with the toolbox talk, a mandatory meeting where the crew reviews the specific hazards for that day. In the Arctic, this always includes a weather report, current temperature, wind chill, ice accretion rate, and visibility. The meeting emphasizes stop work authority, which means any person on the rig, from the lowest ranking roustabout to the offshore installation manager, has the power to halt a job if they see something unsafe. This isn't just policy. It's drilled into the culture because the cost of ignoring a hazard is measured in lives. The handover between shifts is a verbal transfer of knowledge. The outgoing driller tells the incoming driller about the quirks of the equipment that day. The mud pump is vibrating more than usual. Or, watch the wind on the derrick. It's gusting unpredictably. These details don't make it into logs. They live in the continuity between shifts. The rig itself is not a standard offshore platform. Structures like Russia's Prirazlomnaya are built as fortresses. The platform sits on a massive concrete caisson that rests directly on the seabed. It doesn't float, it stands. The design allows ice rubble, broken chunks of sea ice, to pile up around the base, where it actually acts as a protective shield against larger flows. But the rig is never truly alone. A fleet of specialized icebreaker vessels circles the platform constantly, 24 hours a day, every day of the winter season. These ships break up larger ice formations before they can reach the structure. The ice management operation is invisible to the drillers working inside, but it's the reason the platform survives. Without the icebreakers, a large flow could strike the rig with enough force to cause catastrophic damage. During the winter darkness, the platform operates under industrial floodlights that create the stadium effect, a dome of artificial light surrounded by black ocean and white ice stretching to the horizon. Workers on deck see nothing beyond the light perimeter. No stars, no moon, just the edge of illumination and then void. On deck, a significant portion of the work isn't drilling. It's fighting the environment. Sea spray freezes on contact with any surface. Ice accumulates on handrails, stairs, walkways, and sensor equipment. If left unchecked, the weight of the ice can destabilize the rig or block escape routes. Roustabouts, general laborers, spend hours with steam hoses and rubber mallets, smashing and melting ice. The work is repetitive, physically exhausting, and absolutely essential. Without constant de-icing, the platform's structural integrity and emergency systems are compromised. Modern rigs have heating elements traced under the helideck and main walkways to melt snow automatically, but most surfaces still require manual de-icing. The cold never stops. Neither does the ice removal. Wind is managed with wind walls, tall cladding panels that block the worst gusts. Workers stay behind these barriers as much as possible. Stepping out from behind a wind wall feels like being punched in the chest. The wind doesn't just make you cold, it forces the air out of your lungs. Work continues through blizzards. The reason is economic. Downtime on an Arctic rig costs upward of $500,000 per day. That number shapes every decision about when to stop and when to push through. The galley is the only space on the rig with color, warmth, and varied smells. It is the center of the social world. The galley serves 4 full meals per day: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and midnight lunch for the night shift. All food is unlimited. Workers in extreme cold burn between 4,000 and 5,000 calories per day just maintaining body temperature and moving in heavy gear. The body becomes a furnace that requires constant fuel. Once a week, usually Saturday or Sunday, the galley serves steak and lobster. This is called steak night. It serves 2 purposes. First, it's a morale boost. Second, it helps workers mark the passage of time. When every day looks identical and the sun never rises, external markers of time become critical. The camp baker is often the most popular person on the rig. Fresh pastries, cookies, and donuts are available 24 hours a day. Comfort food combats the depression that comes with isolation and sensory monotony. But the galley has strict rules. You must wash your hands at a station before entering. You cannot wear dirty work coveralls. Only clean camp clothes are allowed inside. Wearing a hat in the galley is considered bad luck or disrespectful, depending on who you ask. You have 30 minutes to eat. The galley is for eating, not socializing. Once you finish, you leave to make room for the next shift. These rules maintain the galley as a refuge. The space has to stay clean, warm, and psychologically separate from the work zones. If it starts to feel like just another part of the rig, it loses its value as a mental break. Most workers share a cabin with one other person. On some rigs, 2 cabins share a single bathroom, meaning 4 men share 1 toilet and shower. The cabins are small but functional. Each person has a bunk, a locker, and a narrow shelf. The bunks have thick blackout curtains that can be pulled closed for privacy. This curtain is the most important feature of the cabin. Because of the 12-hour shift offset, many workers share a cabin with someone they never see. One person works the day shift and sleeps at night. The other works the night shift and sleeps during the day. The room is always occupied, but it's always silent. This person is called the ghost roommate. The curtain rule is simple. If the curtain is closed, that person does not exist. You do not speak to them. You do not turn on the main light. You try not to make noise. Violating the curtain rule is one of the worst social offenses on the rig because sleep deprivation is a safety threat. A tired worker makes mistakes. Mistakes on an oil rig kill people. The vacuum toilet presents a unique challenge. To save water, rig toilets use a vacuum flush system similar to airplane toilets. The flush is deafening. A sudden explosive whoosh that can wake a sleeping roommate. The social negotiation around when and how to flush becomes surprisingly complex. Laundry is handled by rig stewards. Workers place their dirty coveralls in a mesh bag, and the clothes reappear clean in their lockers. Showers are quick. Water conservation remains a consideration even on modern rigs, though constraints have relaxed compared to earlier generations of platforms. Internet access is the emotional lifeline to home. Bandwidth is limited, so streaming video is often blocked or throttled. WhatsApp calls and emails are the primary communication methods. When a storm hits, the satellite signal often cuts out. The rig goes digitally dark. This can last for days. During these blackouts, the crew is left with only each other and an intranet of pre-loaded movies. Once a week, the alarms sound for real. The general platform alarm is an intermittent tone. When it sounds, every person on the rig, whether sleeping, eating, or working, must immediately grab their survival suit, hard hat, and life vest and proceed to their assigned muster station. Workers have minutes to dress and move. The muster stations are located near the lifeboats, which are fully enclosed orange capsules mounted on the side of the platform. These lifeboats are designed to be dropped from height into rough seas and to self-right like a buoy. Inside, everyone is strapped into backward-facing seats to absorb the impact of hitting the water. At the muster station, the crew lines up in rows. The lifeboat coxswain calls roll. They stand in the freezing cold until every single person is accounted for. No one goes back inside until the head count is complete. The drill is not optional. It is not shortened for convenience. The full procedure is followed every time because the real emergency won't wait for people who aren't practiced. Another mandatory ritual is the trailing hand technique. Workers are required to hold the handrail when ascending or descending stairs. Specifically, they must use one hand to grip the rail behind them as they move. The trailing hand. This prevents falls if you slip on ice or trip on an obstacle. Getting caught not holding the rail is a firing offense. It sounds extreme until you consider that a fall down metal stairs on a slippery, icy rig can be fatal or career-ending. There's also the spark test. Before entering certain areas where flammable gases might be present, workers must touch a grounding bar to discharge static electricity. In the dry Arctic air, static builds up on synthetic fabrics. A spark from a nylon jacket could theoretically ignite gas fumes. The grounding ritual takes 2 seconds and happens dozens of times a day. On rigs positioned closer to land or embedded in seasonal ice, such as artificial gravel islands used in Alaska's North Slope, another protocol can halt all work instantly: the polar bear watch. A designated crew member monitors the perimeter for bears approaching the platform. If a bear is sighted, all outdoor operations stop immediately. No one is permitted to leave the modules. Workers wait inside until the bear loses interest and moves on. The protocol is clear. You do not shoot the bear unless it is actively attacking a human. The watch can last minutes or hours depending on the bear's behavior. When a worker is fired for a safety violation or injured severely enough to require evacuation, their roommates perform a ritual called bag and tag. They pack up the person's belongings, clothes, toiletries, personal items, and prepare them for transport. The process is somber and quiet. It reminds everyone on the rig that employment is conditional and that the work is dangerous enough to end a career or a life without warning. The packed bags sit in the hallway waiting for the helicopter. No one talks about it, but everyone notices. These rituals, bumping the gas monitor, trailing hand, spark test, muster drills, bear watch, bag and tag, make the correct response automatic, so that when an actual emergency occurs, the body moves before the brain has time to panic. Workers on the rig know exactly how many days, hours, and wake-ups remain until their departure. You never ask someone, "How long have you been here?" You ask, "When are you getting off?" The answer is always precise: 6 more sleeps, or 11 days and a wake-up. Workers survive by adhering to strict micro-routines. Wake up at the same time, shower, make coffee, check email, attend the toolbox talk, work the shift, go to the gym, eat, sleep, repeat. Deviating from the routine invites homesickness. Homesickness invites mistakes. The gym is more than a place to exercise. Workers burn off stress there and the 4,000 calories they consume each day. Almost every rig has a well-equipped gym with weights, treadmills, and stationary bikes. Some workers spend 2 hours a day there. It's the only voluntary part of the routine, and it's critical for mental health. The rig operates in 24-hour darkness for up to 2 months during the winter. Circadian rhythms collapse. The body stops producing melatonin at the right times. Vitamin D supplements are mandatory to prevent deficiency. Artificial light helps, but it's not the same. After weeks in artificial light and darkness cycles, workers feel constantly tired or constantly wired, never quite aligned with their shift schedule. Halfway through a hitch, some crews experience a rollover or swing shift. They flip from day shift to night shift. The transition requires staying awake for 24 hours straight to reset the body clock. This day is called the zombie day. It's the most vulnerable period for mistakes because workers are operating on no sleep while performing high-risk tasks. After weeks of seeing only gray steel, white ice, and orange coveralls, workers experience a phenomenon called rig goggles. Their visual perception narrows. The world becomes a limited palette. When they return to the mainland, many report feeling overwhelmed. Trees, traffic, the smell of rain, the complexity of a restaurant menu, it's all too much at once. The re-entry shock can last for days. The rig enforces a zero-tolerance policy on alcohol and drugs. There is no having a beer after work. Random drug and alcohol testing is common. A positive test means an immediate helicopter ride home and a lifetime ban from the industry. The only legal stimulants are caffeine and nicotine. Coffee consumption is astronomical. Designated smoking rooms, spark-proof environments with special lighters become the main social hubs for gossip and venting. The worst phrase anyone can hear is "weathered in." It means your hitch is over, your bags are packed, but the helicopter cannot fly due to fog, wind, or storm conditions. You are stuck on the rig, unpaid, waiting for a weather window. The waiting can last hours or days. The mood in the departure lounge during a weathered-in period is tense and silent. Workers sit with their duffel bags, staring at weather reports, checking the time obsessively. They've mentally left the rig. Their bodies just haven't caught up. When the weather finally clears and the helicopter arrives, the departure is fast. Workers board, strap in, and the platform shrinks below them. The noise of the rotors makes conversation impossible, but no one wants to talk anyway. They're already thinking about home, what they've missed, who they need to call, how many hours until they can sleep in their own bed. The arriving crew watches them leave. Then they turn and walk toward the intake room. The heavy steel door closes behind them. The smell of recycled air and cafeteria food fills their lungs. The routine begins again. Arctic oil rigs aren't just industrial platforms. They're closed-loop ecosystems where every action is choreographed to prevent failure. The routines that govern life there aren't arbitrary. They're the result of decades of trial, error, and tragedy. Workers don't follow these routines because they're convenient. They follow them because the alternative is measured in frozen skin, toxic exposure, falls, explosions, and deaths. 40 people live and work in an environment that would kill them in minutes without protection, and they do it for weeks at a time, extracting oil from under the seabed in total darkness. The routine makes that survival possible. When the hitch ends and workers return to the mainland, the habits persist. The trailing hand on stairwell railings, the instinct to check for grounding bars, the need for structure and knowing exactly how many wake-ups remain. In a few weeks, they'll board the helicopter again. The door will close. The routine will resume.